Okay, we will call the meeting to order, please. Our budget meeting for February 9th. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda if everyone's happy with it. Mary, French and Ketchiba. Please call the vote, Catherine.
Councillor Ketchiba.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Giguère.
Yes.
Warden Marks.
Yes.
4-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. We need to approve the minutes. If everyone has read them and there's no errors, again, I'd entertain a motion to adopt them. French, Ketchiba. Catherine, please call the vote.
Councillor Ketchiba.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Giguère.
Yes.
Warden Marks.
Yes,
4-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Anyone? Not seeing anyone. Move on. Delegations, it says none. I don't know why that makes me happy. Briefings and reports. Budget promotional material review. Who's doing that?
Well, between Catherine and I, obviously the numbers were produced by the finance team, and then Catherine spent a lot of time to put it into a format that I think you'll all think was a top drawer and ready for publication. But we're looking forward to hearing your feedback.
All right.
So, Mr. Chair, I think yesterday, so I personally sent out a draft of the publication, which I think looks really good, just so that, because I realize we're all biased, that now we've all been involved and we all know what all the numbers mean. So I wanted to get 3 opinions of people who have not been involved in the budget at all. And so I captured a number of comments. I think I sent it to the committee, but now I'm second guessing myself if that was an idea or whether I did forward my comments.
I received it.
I did not see them, Dominique. They didn't come up.
I did.
So I'm anxious to hear what your feedback is.
Okay. So let me pull them up for myself. So these were just verbatim comments that I collected. So for example, where it says efficiencies. So I would preface this by the way that it was well received and it's well done. So the key is, I think, if I were to summarize, the key message is looking for plain language for someone who's not in finance, who's not on council. And so our ratepayers who would be receiving this without additional context, because those were also my instructions, was to look at this and you can't ask for explanation, because the intent is to have someone interpret this on their own and not calling one of us and say, well, what does that mean and what does that mean? So it's in that spirit that I collected and I think the comments were shared. So for example, efficiencies, the question was, does this mean savings? So does this mean that we've found money, like we're cutting it, like it's, so it could be, I guess the message was that it could be interpreted. The second, so that came up a couple of times, the notion of using 0.2 M. Somebody said, why are you making me do the math? So if it means 200,000, why not just put 200,000? So nobody is having to interpret what 0.2 means or what the M means, again, out of context. Same thing, so 9.9 was 900,000. Facilities capital maintenance was also, what does that mean? And so one person I think interpreted it, is it just the county building? Perhaps, people not realizing we have several facilities. Somebody I think asked, is this just the homes? And so assuming, so I don't know if there's a way and to include that. And I think there was a comment about whether the elevator project was actually a capital maintenance, which I think on the second page is referred to as a $3 million project, but this shows as 900,000. So I think that the annually caused a little bit of confusion. So I don't know if we need to use the word annually, since this document specifically is the 2021 budget. So that's one comment. And the term service enhancements was also a bit of a question mark, and in plain language saying, what does that mean? Does that mean we're spending more in order to get additional services? So is 150,000, is this new money or old money? Or is it just the same money, but just a new service? So I don't know if there's a way to clarify that. Couple people said they didn't know what the community improvement plan was. So is there plain language around that? And same thing, so 0.06 M, 60,000. So the question was, because it says this is this year's budget, does this mean we're spending 60,000 this year for future expansion? So I guess the annually versus this year versus future was maybe a little bit confusing. Just say, so what, again, what does that mean? Are we expanding a library this year? The last one, I think, the identify, that's my comment, where it says service delivery review identified by county council. I wondered if we should say selected by county council, because I would say that all the recommendations were identified by the consultants and we've made that public, but then council is recommending and has selected priorities. I have just two more, I think. On the next page, there was a question, what does general government mean in plain language? Assistance to aged persons. The question was, does this mean the homes? If not, then what does it mean? And if so, why not the homes? Good. The thumbs up on major capital projects. That section was clear. And that's it. Oh, the question about the elevators, whether that was, what was the question? Is this a replacement, a maintenance? Because I guess, oh, that's why, because all the other items will say whether it's improvement, rehabilitation, like there's always like a comment, but that one was just the elevators. So maybe to specify like the other ones. That's it. And I can send that, but I can resend or forward or all of those comments.
All right, thank you for that. Comments?
If you like, Mr. Warden, I can speak to a few of those points.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
On the question of efficiencies, efficiencies in this case, because we're talking about added revenue. So it wasn't a reduction of cost, it was an increase in revenue. On the facility capital maintenance, that was the incremental items that came out of the facility audit. The elevator was not part of that facility audit. That was money that was prior to that. Community improvement plan, I mean, we could somewhere in the footnotes provide further context, but I think that's been an item is out in the press quite a bit. So I'm not sure how much detail we want to necessarily, because the more we put in, the more we're going to also cloud the document. Because it's a trade-off on all of these things, right? Whether we can add a lot of complexity to it, but then we may do a disservice in other ways. General government is referring to everything from finance to HR to administrative services. Again, we could detail all of that and add a lot of words to the slide to explain what each of those departments are, and we'll take this committee's direction on what their preference is. Assistance to age, we can change that to homes, or we were using the terminology that appears in the province's financial information returns. So we were trying to stay consistent with that, but we're happy to change that. It's not a big deal one way or the other. And I don't know if Michelle would have a preference on language for that.
I would prefer the homes. I think people would connect more readily with that.
Yep, so that's an easy change.
Mhm.
That's everything I have, Mr. Ward.
All right. Julie, do you have a comment?
Just a quick comment that this is incredibly helpful feedback, because it is important that a document that we're producing for the public speaks to them and is in a language that they understand. So, I think in terms of switching how we're presenting things from $0.2 million to $200,000 makes a lot of sense when you hear it as feedback from our ratepayers. So a valuable lesson here is to, when we have documents like this, and if we have the opportunity to touch base with some members of the public, can you just give this a quick read and does it make sense? So I'm glad you did that check-in. Certainly, I think there are some opportunities under the cost increases section to provide additional explanation without cluttering the document. So I think we can take that away and maybe provide a couple of quick examples that if a member of council who's not on the budget committee or didn't deal with the level of detail that the committee did, it would trigger for them, oh, right, that's what project we're talking about, or that's what fund we're talking about, should they have to answer any questions. So I think if the committee is generally in agreement with the overall design and the concept that we've presented today, we're happy to take it back and refine it and rework it. And we'll send it back out to the committee just as a check-in as soon as it's ready.
Sure.
Okay.
And if
Thank
I
you for
may,
that.
Mr. Ward, just to add that in some cases, it's not I don't think it would help to explain what it is. I think maybe as Julie is saying, would be a completely different term with the target audience in mind. So because the province's language is not, the public's language. So I think just using the target audience's language, because even like capital expenses, I mean, that it's borderline, right? As far as if it's not what you do every day. So I really, really appreciate staff's willingness to look at it from the public's perspective.
Very good. Thank you, Dominique. Anything further? All right. Are we at other business? Does anyone have anything else? All right. No correspondence? And if we picked a meeting for a date for our next meeting?
We have not. We should think ahead to what would be discussed, and that would help us slot in the appropriate schedule for that.
I'm open for suggestions.
One idea could be in April to bring forward towards the end of April, and we can bring forward performance on the first quarter at that time as well.
I'm getting the heads up from Ed. Thumbs up. Is that Mary's shaking her head? Yes. Dominique, yep.
Yeah, and I'm thinking there might be additional information. I think we talked last time about the unallocated fund. And so by end of April, it could be from the connectivity committee, it could, so we might have additional information to consider. So I think the timing sounds right.
Okay. Do you want to schedule it after a county council meeting? We'll have a short meeting that morning.
I
That
like the
sets
way
me
you
up.
think.
It never fails when there's a meeting scheduled in the afternoon. It ends up being a long council meeting. So we could certainly send out a doodle poll with either of the two council meetings in April and get your preference.
Okay, we got time to do that. All right.
Just real quick on that, if we were going for the first council meeting, we would not have first quarter results for you at that time.
All right.
Okay, yeah,
Let's go to the second.
second. Problem solved.
All right. Anything else before we adjourn? Some of us are lucky to have another meeting shortly.
Mhm.
But, all right, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. French? Jaguar? Catherine, call a vote, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Counselor Ketchabah,
Yes.
Counselor French,
Yes.
Counselor Jaguar,
Yes.
Warden Marks.
Yes,
4-0,
So we
the
are-
motion is carried. Sorry.
thank you. We are adjourned and thanks for your attendance, everyone. Take care.